Fellow veterans, my name is Joe Frazier, retired United States Air Force Command Chief Master Sergeant, and presently serving as a Director of Campus Safety, Security, and Emergency Management here at Hodges University. I'm also a proud Hodges University alumnus and former chairman of the Hodges University American Military Veterans Education Fund Cabinet. Now, the goal of this cabinet is to raise funds to help supplement educational opportunities for all veterans. I'm honored to be your narrator for this morning's ceremony, an event designed to pay tribute to all veterans and acknowledge the many sacrifices and accomplishments put forth that enabled our country to remain strong and vigilant. Could I ask all our veterans to stand here this morning, please? We want to take this opportunity to thank each and every one of you for defending the rights, liberties, and freedoms of all Americans. Now, not since December 7th, 1941, has our nation been struck so fiercely by an enemy as September 11th, 2001. As a nation, we witnessed the gallant law enforcement officers, firefighters, paramedics, and brave civilians that in essence was our first line of defense on the war on terrorism that began on that tragic and sorrowful day. The battle continues to this day as our brave Marines, soldiers, sailors, and airmen remain ever vigilant in defending this great country of ours. At this time, I would ask that you all stand for our presentation of colors and remain standing for our Pledge of Allegiance and National Anthem.
My God. Oh, man. Right. Hey. Shoulder. Arm. Forward. March. Left. 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 Right. Left. 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 Right. Left. 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 Mark time. March. Honor guard. Halt. Left. Hey. Present. Arms.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight for the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Order. Arms. Right. Hey. Forward. March. Left. 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 Right. Left. 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 Right. Left. March time. March. Honor guard. Halt. Left. Hey.
Thank you, Corporal Gibson, for for your beautiful rendition of our national anthem. Please take your seats. It is my pleasure to introduce a dear friend, a former Marine and Vietnam veteran, and a very distinguished professor emeritus from Hodges University, Dr. Fred Nerone, who will introduce our very special guest.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief Frazier, and for the kind introduction, and good morning, everyone. Today, it's my pleasure to introduce a Vietnam veteran whose experiences make him a particularly excellent choice to speak to the importance that we support our veterans. Captain Wayne Smith was an Air Force pilot who served and sacrificed for our country in ways we will never know. He served courageously in the Vietnam War, flying 90-plus missions, and was shot down and captured in 1968. For over 5 years, he was imprisoned, tortured, and endured inhumane conditions at the hands of his captors. His home during that period was the Hanoi area of Vietnam, and his residences included prisons known as the Hanoi Hilton, and later solitary confinement at the plantation and the warehouse. Wayne Smith never failed us while in captivity and kept himself and his fellow prisoners alive so they would one day return home safe and able to resume their lives. But Captain Smith was not just a military veteran who paid dearly for our country. He had the grit and determination to make his life a success beyond the adversity he experienced in an unpopular war. That is what our tribute to veterans is all about. Hodges University holds out our hands to veterans of all wars and helps to bring them to a place in life that honors their service and helps them utilize their experience and leadership qualities to raise their possibilities. In short, we honor all veterans and will always have a place in our university and in our hearts for them. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our Veterans Day keynote speaker, Captain Wayne Smith.
Thanks, Fred. I appreciate that. I only have about 3 hours. Actually, I've decided to cut it down to 5 minutes. No, it's really an honor, and I want to shake your hand. This is the third occasion that I've had to address either the staff or students of Hodges University. It's really an honor for me to be here to honor veterans. And I'm going to explain to you why I honor veterans, even though I've often been honored. Because it was those before me that inspired me to survive and help others to survive. He mentioned some of my previous experience, but I got to admit, I was next to John McMahan for about 8 months in the plantation, and we knocked between the walls. And I've had an opportunity to introduce John on numerous occasions in the past when he was getting into politics. Once here in Naples, but he introduced the group when he was a little late getting there, and I have to tell some John McMahan stories. He says, "Don't be in awe of this Smith fellow." He says, "It doesn't take a lot of talent to drive your airplane into a missile." So I'm very fortunate to be here, by the way, and I'll just give you one reason why. When I ejected from my F-4D on 90 missions, I was at 500 feet and the thing just flipped upside down. No mechanical linkages to the control surfaces, all hydraulics. When both engines went upside down, that rocket seat fired me 360 feet. So I found myself within easily below 10 seconds. I wasn't watching my watch, hanging from a tree. And if I hadn't squeezed that handle when I did, or that plane had gone another 2 seconds further, it would have ruined my whole day. Been a little crater there. So I'm very lucky, and I'm one of 471 out of almost 1,300 crew members shot down who survived. So when I say I am very, very happy to be here and vertical, I mean it. But there was something that was very important to me. that you should know and why I honor so many other veterans. I was thrown into the plantation after 3 months of torture and interrogation in the Heartbreak Hotel, we call it, section of the Hilton. And then they took me, hands bound and blindfolded, into a truck to this camp and threw me into Warehouse 10. 8 by 10, I won't go through that because I don't have time. And I heard the scratching on the wall, didn't think much about it. McMahan was in a primitive body cast at the time, couldn't feed himself, and Bud Day, who lives in Destin, who's a Medal of Honor winner, who had bullet holes, AK-47s in his body, fed McMahan until he could actually, with a fractured leg and every bone in his body broken from ejecting at 500 knots and landing into the little lake in Hanoi. Almost died at that point. When they found out his father was Sinkpak, the head of the Pacific, they decided to keep him alive. Most guys in his condition, they would never have said, let him die. And I know of cases where that happened. So anyway, John was next to me in Warehouse 11 when he could walk barely. They used to take him to the big house for, things and break his bones and stuff. So anyway, I go to a place they call the bathhouse after 3 months of blood and grime. The guy opens the door and he says, "Wash," and he takes me back behind the warehouse. And sure enough, there were 6 stalls there, and they put me in there, and he says, closes the door. Well, at the far end of this little place where they had these 6 cisterns all bottled up, I heard an American voice. And he says, "Hey, new guy, tap code. 5 rows, 5 columns. The C and the K are the same." And I yelled back, I said, "Who are you? How long have you been here?" Well, it was Joe Krecka. And Joe had been there 18 months before I was shot down. And of course, the guards, communication was taboo, by the way. So they heard his voice yelling down to me, and they crashed open his door. You could hear that rifle butt hitting his bony flesh. And he yelled back at us. He's running back, and he says, "God bless. Keep your spirits up." Can you imagine telling me to keep my spirits up? I found out later, after I got on the walls and stuff, Ev Alvarez spent 9 years there. Sam Johnson had the record for the longest in solitary confinement, just shy of 6 years, congressman from Texas today. Veterans do that to veterans. They take care of each other. They bond. And then I used to think about those in the Revolutionary War at Valley Forge, crossing the Delaware. You think about World War I when they come out of the trenches facing gunfire. You go to all the other wars. You go to World War II, D-Day. What causes men to do that? And women. Iwo Jima. The Bataan Death March. Korea, the conditions. That kept me going. And today in Iraq, 103-degree temperatures, carrying 100 pounds with flak vest. What causes these people to do that? When you see a veteran, all they want is to say thank you for your service. It means a lot. Thanks.
behalf of all our veterans here at Hodges University, I want to thank you, Captain Smith, for supporting our endeavors and for helping us to honor these brave men and women. Thank you, sir. At this time, it gives me great pleasure to introduce the president of Hodges University, Dr. Terry McMahan. Sir?
Thanks. It's going to be kind of hard for me to speak. I got a few tears in my eyes here. Wayne, you have always been inspired by you. That was tremendous, and you're just a terrific person and a great representative of our country, our state, and our Naples community, and a great friend of Hodges University. He was one of our commencement speakers, but thank you so very, very much.
I do have a lot of humor that I can.
I can attest to that as well. I'd like to thank the Sheriff's Honor Guard for being here today, and that was a beautiful rendition by Corporal Gibson, so thank you very much as well. We've got a few people in the audience I'd like to recognize. Joe Donahue, trustee from our Board of Trustees. John Fisher on our foundation board and the namesake of our Fisher School of Technology, thank you. And I know Dave Weston and Reg Buxton, some other President's Council members are here, so I'd like to thank all of you for being here as well. I heard something this morning on TV which I thought was appropriate, and certainly it brings to mind after hearing Wayne's comments, that today is Veterans Day. But if you think what our veterans have done for us, isn't every day Veterans Day? And I think that's very appropriate. It is an honor for me to be with you today as we pay tribute to those who have put their lives on hold to defend our country and the freedoms we enjoy. We have many veterans of previous conflicts joining us today, but let us also be mindful that there is a new generation currently serving on the battlefields of Iraq and Afghanistan, and they also deserve our gratitude for their courage and their sacrifice. During this modern era that is sometimes called the me generation, today's military heroes have chosen the opposite. They chose to serve the cause that is greater than self, many even after they knew they'd be sent into harm's way. Men, women, brothers, sisters, fathers, and mothers, leaving family and friends behind to defend this great country. They protect us from danger, all for the cause of freedom, and they have given others the opportunity to have a better life. So to all of our veterans, to the fallen and their families, there is no measure of praise that can truly match the magnitude of your service and your sacrifice, and we thank you. I'd like to introduce you to a Hodges University student who is also a veteran. Rosa Arreguin is currently a full-time student pursuing her master's degree in management here at Hodges, with her sights set on a career in human resources. Originally from Mexico, Rosa came to the States in 1996. She enlisted in the U.S. Army in 2003 and has served our country for 5 years with tours of duty in South Korea and in Operation Iraqi Freedom. When she left the service, she had reached the rank of sergeant. Earlier this year, Rosa was selected as Student of the Year in the Johnson School of Business Management program. This past Sunday, she was given the Hodges University Service Award for her work with our Veterans Club, where she serves as secretary. Rosa encourages others, especially other veterans, to go to school and earn a degree. In her words, she says there is no excuse for not getting an education. A person needs to have confidence in themselves. She demonstrates this to her 10-year-old daughter, Natalie, as the two of them often do their homework together. Today, Rosa is representing the nearly 300 veteran students attending Hodges University, and we are proud of her and all of our veteran students for the service to the country. Rosa, please stand.
Thank you, Dr. McMahan, and a special thanks to you, Sergeant Arreguin. Greatly appreciate everything you do. At this time, and with your indulgence, I would like to share with you my thoughts on Veterans Day and this great nation of ours. When I was younger, my friends and I took our freedoms, our liberties, our citizenship, and our patriotism for granted. I didn't realize how precious those commodities were until the summer of 1970, and I received notification that one of my dearest friends, Tom Marino, was killed in Vietnam at the Battle of Song May. I attended my friend's funeral a couple of weeks later, and I still recall the vivid memory of the Honor Guard detail leader presenting the folded flag to Tommy's mother. The transfer of that flag was my first discovery of just how much the price of freedom costs. From that point on, the American flag has forever been a symbol of freedom for me, and I would imagine millions of other veterans throughout America's existence. I've also had the honor and the pleasure of interviewing 25 out of the 164 World War II veterans from Collier County for the Collier County Capturing Living History website, and every one of them indicated that our American flag was their source of inspiration in carrying out their mission to keep America free from tyranny and oppression. Early on in my 26 years in the United States Air Force, I had the opportunity of serving with many Korean and Vietnam War veterans, and I learned through their teachings that the American flag gave us all the clarity and the bravery to do what we all had to do. The American flag has always been a symbol of our unity and a source of pride and inspiration both at home and abroad. Every veteran here today can look at the symbol of freedom and remember the legacy that they contributed to, and be proud that they had a small part in upholding our nation's founding principles, that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. At this time, I would like to share with you a rendition of Old Glory as written by Howard Snauber, a World War II veteran. Old Glory. I am the flag of the United States of America. My name is Old Glory. I fly atop the world's tallest buildings. I stand watch in America's halls of justice. I fly majestically over great institutions of learning. I stand guard with the greatest military power in the world. Look up and see me. I stand for peace, honor, truth, and justice. I stand for freedom. I am confident. I am arrogant. I am proud. When I am flown with my fellow banners, my head is a little higher, my colors a little truer. I bow to no one. I am recognized all over the world. I am worshiped. I am saluted. I am respected. I am revered, I am loved, and I am feared. I have fought every battle of every war for more than 200 years. Gettysburg, Shiloh, Appomattox, San Juan Hill, the trenches of France, the Argonne Forest, Anzio, Rome, the beaches of Normandy, Guadalcanal, the deserts of Africa, the cane fields of the Philippines, the rice paddies and jungles of Guam, Okinawa, Japan, Korea, Vietnam, Kuwait, Afghanistan, Iraq, and a score of places long forgotten by all those who were with me. I was there. I led soldiers. I followed them. I watched over them. They loved me. I was on a small hill on Iwo Jima. I was dirty, battle-worn, tired. But my soldiers cheered me, and I was proud. I have been soiled, burned, torn, and trampled on the streets of countries that I have set free. It does not hurt, for I am invincible. I have been soiled, burned, and torn, and trampled on the streets of my own country. And when it is by those with whom I have served in battle, it hurts. But I shall overcome, for I am strong. I have slipped the bonds of earth and stand watch over the uncharted new frontiers of space from my vantage point on the moon. I've been a silent witness to all of America's finest hours, but my finest hour comes when I am torn into strips and bandages for my wounded comrades on the field of battle, when I fly at half-mast to honor my soldiers, and when I lie in the trembling arms of a grieving mother at the graveside of her fallen son. I am proud. My name is Old Glory. Dear God, long may I wave. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, I'm honored to introduce Dr. Fred Narone, who will make a very special presentation.
Thank you, Chief. Each year, the university asks a seasoned veteran to accept a memorial flag that is flown over the nation's capital on behalf of all veterans. It's with pleasure and great pride that I introduce you to a good friend and veteran, Dr. Earl Hodges, recipient of this year's 2011 Veterans Flag. I think you all know that Earl and Thelma Hodges are the namesakes of our university and longtime friends of all of us. I spoke with Earl earlier this week, and he was adamant that I keep the focus on all veterans and not him. Hence, we'll skip the lifetime bio and tell you about Earl's efforts in preserving freedom in 2 wars, the basis for his recognition today. Earl Hodges proudly served the country in 2 mid-century wars, beginning in World War II, where he volunteered to sail as part of the U.S. Merchant Marine, which is the civilian auxiliary of the U.S. Navy. It wasn't until 1988 when President Ronald Reagan signed a bill into law that World War II merchant mariners were deemed eligible for veteran status and benefits. Dr. Hodges worked on Liberty ships, hauling coal and materials to Europe, and ocean tankers in the Mediterranean and North Africa region. He tells me the tankers were in such poor condition that one could literally put their foot through the rusted steel bulkheads. He was a witness to the sinking of 17 ships in an Italian port, all being sunk in less than 20 minutes by German U-boats, his ship being the only one spared. Earl thinks the U-boats ran out of torpedoes. Following World War II, Earl attended mortuary school and became a licensed mortician. When the Korean War broke out, Earl was called up to help assemble the 1st Army Graves Registration Unit, meaning that they were the first unit to properly prepare fatally wounded soldiers for their trip home. He spent 2 years in the U.S. Army in this capacity before being honorably discharged. We all know of many who served, and most of us don't talk about our war service that much. There are not many good memories from a war. Dr. Earl Hodges is that way. I had to pry this information out of him. However, when asked what it meant to be a veteran, he asked that I share these thoughts with you, seeing as he could not be here with us today. What has it meant for me to be a veteran? That's a sensitive question. So many people do not appreciate those who have really made the sacrifice and those who have made the supreme sacrifice. I really get emotional about that. Most of them did what they did because they realized what a great country we live in and what freedom means. As hard as it is to defend it and keep it, freedom can be lost in 1 generation. There are too many people who do not realize that. They are not willing to stand up and fight for it. I don't mean necessarily that folks need to pick up a rifle and go into combat. What I mean by fighting for it is to watch what's going on at all levels of government, from the local government to our officials in Washington, D.C. Americans need to take time to study history and teach their children how this country was founded, why it was founded, and how many years ago it was founded. It's important to know how many people have given their lives to keep it that way. I have, as they say, a soft spot in my heart for veterans. I mean all of them. Whether they are on the battlefield or manning Fort Ord in California, they are all important. It means a lot to me to be a veteran. Earl Hodges. All right. Would you come up and say something?
I just wanted to say thank you.
Okay. Thelma has provided her thanks and has accepted the flag on behalf of Dr. Earl Hodges. And at this time, we would like to pay tribute to our fallen comrades. If you'd all rise.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to offer one last thought. Our task is to know our history and know why we are here and what it has taken and will take to keep this nation free. So today we remember those who believed in this great nation and risked it all so that we could choose or do most anything we please and allow men and women to become the best that each can be. I want to thank you veterans of the past, and I want to thank our men and women that are in uniform today. God bless each and every one of you, and God bless America. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time we would like to invite you to take a tour of our university, enjoy some light refreshments. Thank you all for being here.